Hi, I'm Margaret and welcome to Garden School. Well, I was volunteering up at my youth garden where my master gardener friends have a wonderful garden for kids, for families to be learning. We grow a lot of vegetables to donate to the food bank. And one thing we did today was thin Swiss chard and beets. Now, why would we need to thin them so much? I mean, maybe we're a little bit liberal with the seeds when we planted, but why are some of those seedlings so close together? And why are they so hard to thin? Well, we'll take a look at that. Well, beets and Swiss chard are both in the amaranth family. And the seeds for both of these plants are actually a fruit cluster. And so the fruit cluster, what we would call the seed, has multiple embryos. So here are some beet seeds, and you can see they're kind of rough around the edges. And Swiss chard looks very, very similar to the beet seeds. These are the little fruit bodies, the fruits, and they have multiple embryos just all together in one fruit. Sometimes 2, maybe even 6, up to 6. And so when you plant your little seeds, you might be thinking, oh, okay, I'm gonna plant my seeds, let's just say 2 inches apart. Well, you may be actually planting for 12 beets to germinate in those 2 inches. Yeah, that's something to think about. So here's a great example of the multiple seeds that are in what we would call a beet seed. So we've got a whole bunch of little plants coming up from right here where maybe just 2 seeds were planted, or what we would call seeds, but it's a seed cluster. And there's a lot of extra, well, not extra, but there are a lot of little seedlings here. This is the right time to thin them out so that you can still remove the extra seedlings before the bulb, the beet root, starts to really develop. And then these delicious greens just go in a stir fry, chop them up in a soup. They're mild enough to even go in a salad. So you're not throwing something away. You're going to be able to use that if you choose to do so. Both of these varieties of beets suggest thinning to about 4 inches apart. We certainly have some work to do in thinning these. Maybe we'll try that in a few days to get that to be about 4 inches apart. That way, the roots of the beet can develop into a nice size. A similar thing takes place with Swiss chard, which is also not individual embryos in a seed, but seeds or seed balls or fruits that have multiple embryos. And you can see here, we've got three little Swiss chard plants growing together. They will do better if those are thinned to one plant. You could still survive. It will still survive like this, but make sure it gets adequate water. And then also the greens, the young little Swiss chard plants can be thrown into a stir fry, into a soup. They are certainly delicious. A good time to do the thinning is when the plants are about 4 inches tall, something like that. Now these are quite a bit taller and they are harder to thin. You can see how close these 2 plants are to each other. They're just going to have to stay there. Here's another situation where there's 2 that are remaining together. They'll be okay, but they would do better if we had thinned a little bit earlier. Now, we rarely get close to 100% germination, true. So our tendency is to seed a little bit thicker. Well, that's fine, but just be prepared to do the thinning. So when those little beets have come up and they're about 4 inches high, that's the time to thin them. And thin them about 4 inches apart, or as the package of the seed package recommends for you. When it comes to Swiss chard, about 4 inches tall too, But those will want to be like about 8 inches apart or maybe even more, because the Swiss chard is going to make a big root underneath the ground and produce lots and lots of delicious leaves. The beet, on the other hand, will produce delicious leaves, but it's going to focus on that root that we want to consume that's growing underground. That's the difference there. And so just check your seed packet to make sure that you're thinning appropriately and at the right time when the plants are the right size. Otherwise, it's a little bit too difficult and you end up kind of doing some damage to the plants that remain that are not being thinned. Well, I hope you are able to get out there and thin your beets and Swiss chard and then use those little seedlings as just a little bonus for your cooking or for your salad. Well, this is so beautiful. There's always more to learn in the garden. Bye-bye.